We are live.
We are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Imagine if there were some children watching this. Just, like if there is, parents, you've failed. And another episode of the Triple Crown, the Three Amigos, the Three Musketeers, anything involving three men. Three men and no baby. So what are we going to talk about today, lads? Because I know we've been preparing. We've just been talking off air how well prepared we are for today's 30 minutes, 40 minutes chat about all things marketing and estate agency brilliantness.
First of all, let's get out of the way. How's the boxing?
It was a good experience. I know. I feel bad because one of my mates said to me, he said, he was with me, and he said, "Shut up moaning." He said, because a lot of people don't get to, this is like a privilege.
Yeah,
and it was great. I've been to better football matches, put it that way.
Do you know what I've got strong? Sorry, guys, I've got strong opinions on this. Where people say you shouldn't mourn and you can't mourn. No, you can. You absolutely can say that it was there, but I wanted it to be there. And I know people are talking about flipping first world problems and kids are starving in Africa, which has got bugger all to do with you going to boxing. But it's the same principle of, no, I'm sorry, I paid for this. I was expecting X, and I didn't get it. So, Jerry, what I'm trying to say is, if you want to mourn, my mate, you bloody well mourn.
Thanks. I mean, it was. I think there's nothing as exciting as the build up to a big heavyweight fight. Because with heavyweights, obviously, they can knock each other out in a split instant.
Yeah.
But then it got I think it's just so easy for Fury. He's like levels above, and he will beat AJ as well.
Yeah.
He's just too good at the moment. And yeah, it was good. But I will say, from a business perspective, from Wembley Stadium, oh my God. So the queues for beers, thank God I don't drink, because I just said to my mates, crack on, I'm going to wait over here. And they were waiting like half hour for beers. And when they got there, they said there was two people in this queue, right? Two servers. And they said it was just literally somebody going like that, really slowly. So from a business perspective, imagine you whatever they took on beer, they could have probably doubled that if they'd had a system in place to get more people basically drunk and antisocial.
Yeah.
But it was all right. It was all right. I had a better day the next day because I did corporate hospitality at Brighton, and that absolutely annihilated the boxing in my eyes in terms of an experience. Yeah.
So you, Jerry High Flyer Lions now, just you're a corporate hospitality whore.
I will never go and mix with the normal people again. A lot of people think I'm a man of the people. Do you know, because I can't speak properly or proper? I've got to be honest, I've sold out and I don't care.
To be fair, it took quite a few attempts to try and get you on this, so we can actually see you on the up, the ascent.
Yeah. I used to be a man of the people. Nah, sod it. I don't like people. They annoy me. Like something I'm going to talk about getting annoyed. Shall I start off with what annoyed me?
Segue into it, yeah.
What annoyed me, apart from the boxing this week, is recommendations on Facebook, right? And in agency forums and all this sort of stuff. And I don't care who I piss off, because honestly, it was my 50th birthday yesterday. And if one thing I've learned during my 50 years on Earth is just don't care what people think. If you think it's the truth and it's coming from a genuine place, you've just got to say it. So anyway, bullshit recommendations. So I will go, let's say I go, I need what can we think of? Think of something that's not us, not a content creator, not a Facebook guru, social media guru, and not a business coaching person. What I don't know.
In our industry.
Prop tech. What did you say, Paul?
In our industry.
Yeah, just think of something random, and I'll give you the example.
EPCs.
So some people jump on and they go, these lot are great. These lot are great. And you think to yourself, well, have you used them? The ones that annoy me the most are people that just list loads of other people, that say, this EPC, that EPC. And what you've got to be careful of is, A, has the person used the company? I'll be straight with you. I saw a thread. I might as well get to the point. I don't care. Right. So I saw a thread in another group forum that was asking for a website content creator. Yeah. We're not really that. So I weren't that bothered, and sort of names got mixed in. Some people were just listing everyone who writes, who's got a pulse. That's not a recommendation. That's a list. Others were recommending their family members. They may well see this, but again, that's not a recommendation in my eyes. I could recommend my sister for something. I'm not sure what, but it would be pretty useless. And what was the other one? Yeah, and just people that, how can I put this? That might be affiliates of the people they're recommending, so they're getting kickbacks. So I think you've got to be really wary of Facebook recommendations. Like,
Massively.
I can recommend you two, which I do, because A, I work with you, Paul, and B, I work with you, JP, yeah? For years, for many years. So I know you're not shit, because otherwise I won't be using you. But when I see people just recommending, people think, hold on, I know they're not using them.
Yeah.
That's how I knew the content thing, because I know they're not using them.
Yeah.
So that was something, and it just annoyed me. So I think at worst it's disingenuous and a little bit deceitful. At best, it's rubbish. So
I agree, and sort of just to sort of add to that, I tell you what really annoys me. It annoys a strong word, but it's like, oh, here we go again. Is when somebody asks for a recommendation, they say so and so is your man. It's like, no, it's your man because you use that person, but unless you've used all the people within that industry who are coaches, content writers, or whatever, then you are not in a position to say whether they're the best. So you should say, so, I use Jerry Lyons, really, really good, got no complaints. But don't try and word it in such a way that he is the only option.
yeah, true.
So you should actually sort of filter it and caveat it with, I've used Jerry for years, absolutely brilliant, no complaints. That's a good quality recommendation. But to say Jerry, Chris, Amanda, Fred, Bob, Susie, Zippy, Bungle, it's like, that's not recommendation. Like you say, to listen, to say, you need to use Bungle. He's absolutely, he is the man. He's the man. Have you used Jerry? No. Then how is he the man? He's your man. He's not everyone else's man.
Yeah.
And you almost feel as though it's people's need to be liked that they call people. And me as a coach, it happens quite regular, and thankfully I'm pretty much always in the mix. But because I've got an agency that's actually growing and we're acquiring, etc., we've got some of my competitors who are shrinking their business but consolidating and using that BS line. But then they're talking about, I'm a growth and scale expert, but they've got a business. One thing they forget: look on Company's House. They've got bugger all in the bank. They're making more money from training than they have their agency. That's another thing they've got to look at. People have to be quite mindful of.
Yeah. That Company's House thing you've just said there, JP. My builder who built this, what I'm in at the moment, said to me, I said, how do you know about cowboy builders? And he said, well, one of the easiest things to do is look at their Company's House, which is really clever because nobody really thinks of that. So you look at their Company's House, and he said, because what you don't want, and he said he sees it all the time, he gets called in on jobs, is where the builder's gone bust.
Yes.
So Company's House will give you a bit of a snapshot to know.
Yeah.
So I like the company. I do the Company's House check as well on competitors. Yeah.
It can be a little bit out of date. So it can be like 18 months, up to 18 months, I believe, 20 months out of date. But it's an indication. And especially if they're being in business like 5, 10 years or whatever, all of a sudden not going to be like rolling. And then the last 20 months since, boom, it's going to go up. And it just gives you an indication.
Yeah. So that was my rant, really. I've got it all off my chest now. I feel zen-like. Moaned about boxing, moaned about online recommendations. Don't get me wrong, some of them are good, but like you said there, JP, you've got to sort of qualify. And it's like, when I hear people say, what's the best bit of prop tech for this? Sure, it's much more nuanced than that. It's got to be like, how many branches you got, how many people you got. Do you know what I mean? What are your aspirations? Because I know I could get a bit of prop tech for my CRM, but it would cost me £10,000. It's too much for where we're at the moment. Our aspirations are not that. So yeah. But the ones I hate is where it's either the family recommending or the husband and wife recommending each other. That's such bullshit.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, but to be fair to the husband, what happens if you recommended somebody else?
Oh, that'd be brilliant.
You'd be sleeping on the movie couch.
And the kickback people, they're the worst. They're actually worse than the relatives. I get the relatives. I can understand it to a point. It wouldn't be my way of doing things. But the kickback merchants, forget that.
I know a lot to do with that. There's a lot of people have events and they're sponsored by XYZ, and it's just whoever will pay them the highest fee.
I think until you've sort of had that chat with that person and know the inside and out of their business. And even then, it might not be the right person. Then you might be able to recommend a couple of people. But no, I'd never recommend online. Very rarely. I want to have a conversation, hear what they're doing, you know, what their business looks like, what's important for them. And then you can make some honest recommendations. But it's more a case of that's a possibility rather than a recommendation.
Yeah. So that's Paul, but you had something interesting on your little list of chatting. Something to do with Disney.
Yeah, Disney. So I was reading something last week about making small improvements in your business, and this is a great time to do that because everyone's desperate for, you know, property and clients. It's time to look at what actually your clients go through and see if you can make small little improvements because they all add up. So even if you think there's not much you can improve, actually walk through the process that your clients are taking and making those little improvements here and then all add up. And don't forget, the experience starts when before they even talk to you. You know, for agents, it's when they see your reviews, for example, or they see your board, or they see your adverts. But the Disney bit comes in. I was reading, they mentioned about Disney management, and they said they were running out of ideas to improve income and improve things further. So one of them had a great idea, was to view the park and the experience at a child's level. So they all went around the park.
So did they get Andy Overman to do it?
Here we're coming for you.
Yeah, we're in trouble now. So they all got on their knees for the right reason. Yeah. And they all went around the park, and one of them came up with the idea, looked at the shops where all the stuff was sold, and they said, the kids can't see in, the windows are up here. So what they did, they made all the windows down to floor level, and then the sales went through the roof because it's an experience. The kids were walking past, they could see into these fantastic shops, and then their income went through the roof again. So there's some hidden gems, I think, if you start walking through the process.
It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? There's a great one of the best the High Performance podcast got the chief marketing officer from Nike in. It's a recent one, really good. It's one of their better ones. I think they've gone off the boil a bit, to be honest. Do you? Is it just? I thought it was just enough,
I've just bought the book. Actually, I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, no, I've got the book here. Not read it. I've got loads of books there. Never read them. Not even going to bother.
Looks good.
Anyway, but my learning style is more auditory. Is it auditory? But it is,
yeah.
But the chief marketing officer from Nike, he said that what they would do is they get like speakers in like from all over the world and different places, and they'd go out, walk around cities to get inspiration for their shoes, basically. And I think that's something that estate agents really do need to look outside of the industry. Look at if it's becoming more of a service. If it is a service-based industry, look at services. I mean, I'll give you a good example, and this is why I said that the hospitality at Brighton was much better than my experience at Wembley, not just because of the traffic and all that sort of stuff. Brighton, you go there, everything's on your table. But the guy remembered, the guy who sort of ushered us in, went, "Oh, Jerry Lyons, happy birthday. I love your email signature." And then he rattled off what's on my email signature. But he was doing that to people behind us. When I went to the toilet, I went out the wrong way, and he was ushering people in and finding, that little thing to say. Another guy, he said, "Oh, how's the wife and kids?" Blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean? So those little things add up, I think. But I love that Disney. Yeah, I love that Disney thing. Yeah.
So we went to Edinburgh. Like me and Jen went away for just us abroad, and then last week, the bank holiday weekend, felt guilty, so took the kids to Edinburgh for a couple of days, and we stopped at these lovely serviced accommodation things. This little flat, and it's the second time we've stopped there, and it's quite pricey, so we didn't want to go a big all out sort of thing, but we got a decent one. It's actually on the Royal Mile up at the castle. And as soon as we went in there, so I dropped the kids and Gemma off with the cases and stuff. And bear in mind, it's like a hybrid hotel stroke serviced accommodation, like apartments type of thing. So I went round, parked the car, and I came back. Somebody literally is at the door waiting for you to come in. So ran out, got the cases. You got to wear your masks up in Scotland. Would you like complimentary drinks while you're waiting, while your husband's waiting? Like got the kids like orange juices and stuff. clearly it had been highlighted on the system that this is our second time there. So they said, "Oh, brilliant! Welcome back, Mrs. Paul. Thank you very much. If it's okay with you, we'd like to give you a complimentary upgrade." Didn't even ask for it. They just give us an upgrade. And because of that upgrade was 350 quid for 2 nights.
Yeah.
Right. So we stopped in this lovely apartment. Oh no, 250 quid for 2 nights. But that was the difference between what we paid to what it was worth. Yeah. And we were just absolutely wowed. And they've given us a 15% discount off the next time we stay. We are not going to look at anywhere.
You're telling the story to us, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, right, okay, yeah, city break. I fancy Edinburgh. I'll just ask you for that, and we go there. We don't even look for other options because we know you've been there. They've looked after you. Do you know what I mean? So
it's unbelievable. It was Cheval Chambers on the Edinburgh Mile. If you want to do it, Cheval Chambers.
Are you sure you didn't say in the solicitor's office? Cheval Chambers is a legal outfit as well.
There was an old bloke with a little pipe in the corner, so you might have been. You might be right.
But those everything you've said though, it's all about putting experience and value in front of price, isn't it? You know, and you said about the boxing that you probably never go back, but you would go back to where you went in Brighton, I think you said, and you mentioned all about all those things they did, but it was quite expensive. But all those things that they did was a really good experience. And if you go down that route, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's just two simple things about value and experience.
Do you think, and you'll know this, you two, because you run agencies, are there enough people willing, like me personally, I'm willing to pay, I would say over the odds, but I want a guaranteed good experience. And I'm willing to pay for that. Do you think there's people selling their homes who are willing to, pay 1.5, for example, if they know, right, I'm going to get the best price. I'm not going to have any headaches. No one's going to try and bullshit me. Do you think there's enough people in that sort of higher end for agencies to target these people?
You've got to know your market. So you couldn't do that in the collieries of County Durham, but you could do it in the North Yorkshire towns and the market towns. So the simple answer is yes, but the more complex answer is you've got to know, you've got to have the right area location. So, a quick look at this is the social economic profiling of the area. So you can do that by how many council tax bands there are above, the expensive ones, 400 grand plus. So that's why, your Savills, your Knight Franks, your Strutton Parkers, your Fine and Countries, what we're part of, why we can go and get 1.5, 1.6% with a 600 quid to a 1,200 quid upfront marketing fee. But Castledene can't do that. James Wynn can't do that. Hegarty's Gordon Lamb, Red Hot. None of them can do that. Fine and Country can because we know our market. So you're right.
You know what's interesting about Fine and Country marketing as well is it seems a lot of it is paper, like tangible marketing, like the magazine, the letters, the other stuff they send out is stuff you have in your hand rather than just relying on digital.
Mate, it absolutely blows this whole the whole digital print doesn't work thing out the water. It absolutely does. Don't get me wrong. You've got to have your digital marketing. So in normal stuff, in normal your low end stuff, I think it's a balance 50-50. In your high end stuff, I think people want to feel the quality. You can't feel the quality of a digital advert. You can't feel it. But when you've got I don't know if I'm allowed to show you these, but the refined magazines, what we send out.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Oh, you can see them. I don't know if you've seen them, Paul. I mean, these are...
Yeah, they're thick as anything, aren't they?
Chunky.
Lovely photography as well, isn't it? It's always beautiful photography.
People will pay for quality. They absolutely will, whether it's cars, whether it's property, whether it's watches. One thing I did like, there's a guy called Daniel Harrington who works for Fine and Country. Very, very switched on guy. Like salesman, he's brilliant. And when I first went down there, sat down, and he because I've been talking to him for quite a while about coming on board, so I kind of knew what he was going to do in the training session. And he said, right, who's your competitors? And this guy put his hands up and he says, oh, Savills, Knight Franks. And I'm sitting going, dickhead, because I know what's coming next. And he goes, no, it's not. And he put a slide up and he said, Kuoni, Rolex, BMW, Land Rover, Waitrose, Tiffany's. He says, that's who you're competing with from an experience point of view. So look at what the high-end brands do, replicate that, and therefore you're standing out up here about the service you're giving when everybody else is swimming with each other and it's a bun fight. You're giving such a good service and value. It's not even close. It's like that blue ocean strategy where you want to be in the ocean where you can't see anybody, rather than where it's just you're surrounded by each other.
Yeah, and that's interesting that about the different services. Yeah, think beyond the industry you're in.
Yeah,
I think it starts a lot earlier as well. What I mean by that is that if you want to charge those high prices, it's not about the service only; it's about what you do before, as well. So there's a lot of work there, and that comes down to the branding and everything else that's involved.
Yeah, it does. It's a big thing. It's like it's the off-market stuff, it's the on-market stuff, it's the branding, it's how you're getting your message out there. And more importantly, well, as important if not more, I think it's the experience. It's definitely the experience.
Yeah.
What are you noticing, JP, from your fine and country sellers and your sort of middle of not the lower end? That's the wrong. The cheaper housing stock.
Majority.
So the middle and the fine and country. What a sort of difference in sellers' expectations?
So we've got like your lower end stuff, which is mostly your Castledeans, your Hegartys, Gordon Lamb. Up in the northeast, you're looking at 2-3 bedroom, mid-terraced flats, all that sort of stuff. You've then got Hexham, which is a market town. You're probably 200-300 grand houses, and then we've got James Wynn, which is like 400 grand plus, maybe 400 to 600,000 quid. Average is about 400. So they're like your higher end stuff. Quite demanding. We charge 1.25%. It's an absolute belter of a branch, but it's a mixture between value and price. So they've got like a 30-odd percent, 35% conversion rate. The ones that we lose because they come on the market, most of the time it's down to price. Most of the time. Fine and country, it's very rarely the price. Fine and country, it's because they want that. For example, there's this big, beautiful house. It's 3 million quid. It's a mile and a half down the road in Thirsk. We charged 1.75. We were going for the valuation, 1.75% upfront, 1,200 quid marketing fee. Never balked. They went with Knight Frank, who came 45 mile away from Harrogate because they wanted a Knight Frank board.
Right.
Nothing to do with price. It was everything to do with keeping up with the Joneses. So that's a typical thing. So, the first one we put on was 1.3 million. It went at 1.26, 1.75%, 22 and a bit grand fee. Never quibbled. What they do need is they need a lot of hand holding, and they want to see the value. And one of the things that they really like is these handwritten letters that we're doing now. So we, nice fountain pen and purple ink, and they're loving that because it's quality. Because it's like, unless you write like, hieroglyphics and stuff, yeah, like me. But do you know what? It's a massive. I mean, we've only been doing it since November properly. Well, properly this year, because obviously November, December, there's nothing happening. Mind blown. It's a completely different market.
Do you know?
It's interesting. So interesting.
I mean, just reminded me, and this is going the other spectrum, totally from fine and country. But did you see that program about Primark? This is going.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so the really interesting thing, you were talking about marketing that shouldn't work but does work, and they apparently they sell more clothes than anyone in the I think it's in the country, or it's in the world, in the country, and they don't sell anything online. So everything they sell is in store. So anyone else that comes anywhere near to them sell online, and most of their stuff does come from online. But the model doesn't work. If they sell online, by the time they send the stuff out by post and everything, they would make a loss. But it just talking about how fine and country are using different methods, which perhaps other estate agents or people would say, no, that's not where we should be. We should be online. We should be doing this, doing that. And you mentioned writing letters and print and other aspects. It just shows, doesn't it, how sometimes stepping out of line actually makes you stand out and does work.
It's interesting because Primark, they're obviously playing to their strengths. And there was, I forget, he said some American marketeer in one of his books was saying that if you went to Walmart's head office somewhere, there was a big sign somewhere in the reception or in the staff bit. You can't out Amazon.
Yeah.
So we know we can't offer that online experience.
Yeah.
They're too far ahead of the game. So we have to offer something different. So it's interesting, like estate agents. It's like, I don't know, like the whole market share argument. But if you can really have a compelling story behind why you got the biggest market share, why not always talk about your market share? Do you know what I mean? If you can show the why behind the pie, pie charts. I know we all love pie charts here, and our friend Chris Watkin loves them. But if you can show the why behind the pie, then that is a compelling argument.
Yeah.
The way as well is you can counter arguments about market share. You can say, well, to be honest with you, we're more about the client care than the market share. So we're focused on this little 10% of people when you're out doing your sort of pitch and evaluation, to if that was ever raised. Do you know what I mean? Do you want to hear a good one as well about awards?
Go on then.
Right. So I was speaking to one of my clients the other day, and I said, one of his agents, I said, they've won awards. He said, yeah, but they won them in the past. So I said, okay. And he said, what I do is, if people say, like, who have you got round? He always says, who have you got round? And they'll go, agent A, agent B is the award-winning agent. And he always turns around and goes, yeah, they used to be really, really good. He said, when they had a period of winning awards 3 or 4 years ago, they had a great team then. Yeah, really, really good. But he says 9 times out of 10, he can see the seller thinking, they used to be really good. And then they're thinking, oh, those awards were from 2016. Do you see what I mean? So it's quite there's a place for that when you subtly undermine without dissing your rivals.
So funnily enough, we do that on these letters that we're sending out to finance country. So we call the improvement letter. So effectively, we're looking at a company, the listing on Rightmove or Zoopla.
What they call improvement? Did you say?
We call the improvement letters. I'll ping it across to you so you can have a look. So I took a little bit what Fine & Country did. I was reading a sales psychology book. In fact, I tell you what, I was reading this one. 7 Secrets of Persuasion, Leading Edge Neuromarketing Techniques to Influence Anyone. I was trying to get it so Gemma would make my tea on a night, but it still hasn't worked. Anyway, so although I did get a clip around the lug. So what we did is we looked at what people. How do you get the message across to somebody, right? That we can improve your property without saying your agent's crap.
Yeah.
So you'll be surprised to know I made a procedure about this. So the beginning of the letter is always the same. These are the handwritten ones. So there's a couple of things. There's one, you've got to be able to improve the marketing. If it's professionally photographed and videos and not, just move on to the next one. So you pick 3 things that you can improve. And you're basically saying, listen, I know your house is on the market. Hope you don't mind. I've seen you listing on Rightmove. I've got 3 things that I would like to suggest to you to improve the marketing and therefore saleability of property. And you go through them. And you're blowing a little bit of smoke up the bum by saying, look, you've got an amazing property, but you've only got 9 photographs. You really should have professional photographs, outsource and blah, blah, blah. A couple of good bankers that never get done. So nobody puts any videos on, like presenter-led videos. So you'd say, you'll have heard a picture is 1,000 words. Well, a video is 1,000 pictures. I can't believe they haven't put video on, a presenter-led video, highlighting and showcasing things such as your amazing garden or your beautiful fireplace. And you go through it. And then at the end, you say, I'm more than happy if you want to take this to your current agent, or if you want me to come out and share other suggestions I've got, which will improve the likelihood that you get a maximum price for your property, please give me a ring. I've got at least a dozen emails, or the guys I got from people saying that's a selfless letter. Thank you very much. Now, one of our branches is complaining because he's sending them all out. And the agents are just putting improving the marketing. So clearly the homeowner's going back. But this is literally the way how we're getting all these £1 million+ houses on Fine & Country.
And you might not be getting that house there at that instant, but if there is problems and they need to swap agents, you are banging the conversation for a second instruction. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You're very interested. On my list, Paul, that you sent me very kindly, you said about agents not making the most of their social media, their listings on social media. So how would you advise agents to make more of their listings on social media? Yeah.
This all came about. What one agent I'm working with said that they're selling properties at the moment, no problem. It's just getting more properties on. And I was saying to them, well, what do you do when you take a property on and you sell it? And said, of course, we leaflet drop the road, we write to local people. And I pointed out that's probably what every agent is doing at the moment. You know, you want to step away from what everyone's doing and do something a little bit more. So I said, you need to sort of squeeze everything you can out of every listing that you take on. And one of the things you can do is obviously look at social media when you take the property on to announce you've taken it on, show to everyone that you are taking properties on, because if they are selling that quickly and you're just allowing one person to view it and it's gone, you're not doing the vendor a favor, but also you're not showing everyone locally that you're taking these properties on. So social media is a great way to do that. So you can announce the properties come on. You could think about perhaps a virtual open house, like a Facebook Live, doing a bit of a tour of the property before you start rolling all the viewings in. Put a few ads out there showing that it's come onto the market, and then obviously when it's sold, you can go through the process again. But I think it's about starting the marketing earlier for your next valuation, if that makes sense. You know, think about you know,
that does make sense. It's funny you say that, because we've got I was speaking to Nick Cheshire, great agent in Essex, and me and him are looking at doing something where it's linked to Home Search. Got something on their system where you can do postcards to. I've just got to note it here. So when they've just been instructed, you can do classic 2020. Yeah. It's a classic 2020 with a twist, because you put a QR code. This isn't him, by the way, but you put a QR code here, if you can see it there, that links to the property you've just been instructed on. And then when you sell it, when it's been when contracts have been exchanged, you send out another postcard with an updated QR code about this is how we got this exchanged. And when it completes, you're kind of moving on to just drop the seed in. We can do the same for you.
Yeah. So
I get what you mean. It's a long run up, and I know you talked about it for ages, that people are looking at you for so long before they even step to you. So yeah, that's really, really interesting. I think QR codes as well. I mean, we're looking at them for our business, but again, to go back to Sunday, there was a QR code on the menu, and it was QR code that took you to the supplier's website, because Wendy liked this one thing that we had in particular. QR code it. She's just ordered from that. So, you know, rather than go, oh, write that down for me, please. Do you know, like, can you tell me where this? She just QR code it. I take you there. It's there on your phone. I mean, QR codes are, yeah, they're not the future. They're now.
It's just using it as part of the plan, isn't it? You've got to try and. I think Paul put me onto this. It was back end of last year. You know, we were having a catch up, and he said about touch points have completely sort of changed now. So I was Googling it, funny enough, and Google have come up with their own version of how many touch points to buy. So remember, it was 7.
Yeah.
It's between 20 and 200 now, touch points, because there's that many advert, branding, advertising, you know, mentions all over the place. So it's you know, you could scroll on your phone half a dozen times a day and see the same message like 15, 20 times. And the rough rule of thumb is the more expensive the product or service you're trying to sell, the more touch points you needed to build up that relationship, that rapport, so you buy. So as a homeowner, you know, if we want to, our most valuable tax-free asset is our resi home, we want to make sure that we have seen that person. So, you know, there is such thing as brand recognition, raising your brand awareness and stuff, but try and measuring it like the QR codes is so important.
Yeah.
QR codes.
Yeah. I have a question. It wasn't on our little script today, but I think it's a good question, because I think I've asked you this before, JP, but somebody was asking me about it the other day. What drives you on? Paul, I don't know what drives you. What drives you, Paul?
My car. What drives me? I just like helping. I know that it sounds corny, but I just love helping people.
That's the kind of guy you are. That is like an answer from a Miss World contestant, mate.
If I can help someone, I'm happy, and I just feel like that. Yeah, that's just a big thing for me. So that for me is what really drives me a lot of the time.
Well, what about you, JP? I know we've discussed it, but I remember, because I must say, I think JP is one of the most driven people I've ever met.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do, because, I do.
I just want to be the best that I can be. Whatever I do, I've just got to be the best. If I genuinely, like I did a webinar with Nav, who used to own Fixed Floor.
Did he sell? I didn't understand.
Yeah, he sold.
By the way, they're very good at content marketing.
They're very good. They're very good. And one of the reasons I think he's good is it was a very selfless approach where, so I think it's Rav.
Rav.
Yeah, and he used to just do loads and loads of webinars, and I loved that. And do you know what? He's such a nice fellow as well. Like he's very switched on, but he's also a really nice guy. Anyway, I did a couple of webinars. I think it was over lockdown, and this is the best way I can sort of like typify it. I mean, everyone knows about me sport and past, but unless we've actually trained together or you've been to gym with us, you won't exactly know how hard I train. If that makes sense, it's like put my earphones in and forget it. I genuinely treat that as a job, even though I'm not professional anymore. I just go. And anyway, we did this webinar, and at the end of it, he says, "Oh, thanks very much. We've got the feedback." And I genuinely, and anyone, I hope he's watching it and call me out if this is bullshit. I just went, "Don't give me the good stuff. Just give me the one where I said I'm shit." And I don't care about being the best, like about that, because I learned nothing from my wins. I had like 13, 14 pro and semi-pro fights, and I never learned anything from the one time I got beat as a pro. It was the one loss I learned everything from.
It's funny, that mentality, isn't it? Because I think I've always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder, and it manifests itself from time to time. But it was probably last November around award season, and I thought we were in the shout for a couple of. Remember I told you?
Yeah,
we were coasted. I was a bit like, yeah, this is fine.
2 awards you went in for. You went in for 2
awards, right? And I thought we had really good shots. One of them, an industry one, I still think, I don't know how this other lot beat us, right?
Yeah.
The local business award, I don't know enough about the other business that beat us to sort of really comment. But I think a chip on your shoulder can be quite useful, because I felt aggrieved that we hadn't won that award. I felt really aggrieved. I was like, I was a bad loser, but I didn't voice it. It's only now I've spoken about it publicly. I was like, fuck this award, man. This doesn't matter, does it? They won't beat that out. Anyway, sod this award, but then it made me think, now, you know what? We're going to go and we're going to make the business better. So I rallied up Amanda and Jess and Benny and the team, and we started coming out with the guides basically behind us. Can you see those?
Yeah, it would be bits and bobs. They're good.
Yeah. If it was on a bigger screen, like basically, if we lost one of you, just saying, 2 amigos works fine for me. You'd be able to see them. But yeah, I think that driven thing is interesting. Who's the most driven person you've met then? You two. And it doesn't have to be an estate agency. It can be, or heard about. I mean, I think of Ronaldo and Michael Jordan and people like that. Floyd Mayweather, by the way.
So for me, I've met 2. So when I went to America, I trained with a guy called Randy Couture, who he was an American guy. So when I was in my late 20s, mid late 20s, he was 40, 41. And I think he just won the Eliminate. Anyway, he became the world champion at 42-year-old. And he transitioned into being the Scorpion King with The Rock, and the Expendables with Stallone and all that sort of stuff. So he's a very famous guy. Yeah. So he was like an RAF. He was in the military, not the RAF. He was in the Air Force. And then the second one is a guy called Michael Bisping, who I've trained with a couple of times. So he's
Michael Bisping.
Yeah. So he's I've trained with him a fair few times. So he's a lovely guy, but what a driven guy. And he came up to us to train with us because my coach was a guy called Ian Freeman, who's like a famous UFC English fighter back in the day. And he had a big pull, like name-wise. And then we went down to Leicester, where he was training at the university to train. And straight away, I knew he was going to be big. I had the same drive as him. It's just I had a little girl at the time, and it was just difficult. I just started the business, all that sort of jazz. And it was too much of a risk to throw everything into fighting and then not do it and blow it up. Yeah. But he was the one that did blow it up, and he's worth 5-10 million at the minute, and he's living in the US and he's living the dream. So yeah, that 2 for me. What about you, Paul?
It's difficult. I think in my family, my mum's probably quite driven. That's probably where I get some of it from. But she was. She pretty much built up the business to start with, and she was pretty much one of the first, I'm not saying the first, but one of the first female managers in the country, managers. So at a very young age as well. So
and at that time as well, mate, that was even more special.
Men are only allowed to the meetings. It was pretty much like
really.
That. Yeah, back in the days, yeah.
Madness,
yeah. So it's quite interesting conversations with her about it. But yeah, I suppose for her, because for her to be a estate agent at such a young age and become a manager, then open a branch and go from there, that's probably where I get a lot of it from.
And you know what? I think when like if we think of all the best estate agents we know, one of the things that I think they've all got in common, the ones that I know about, is this constant wanting to know more and really curious people. Well, what if we did this and what if we did that and what would happen? And this is sometimes it's people that have been doing it for 40 years.
Yeah.
And they want to know about QR codes. They want to know about, could augmented reality sell more homes for us? It's just this relentless curiosity, which I've got to be honest, I don't have. What drives me? I just want a DOS. I want to have enough money, sell the business, walk off into the sunset. I'll still visit my clients, but it would just be for a Johnny up. Basically, I want to be Simon Whale.
Yeah.
Funny enough, he's just commented on something you wrote and called you the Count of Content, which I thought was quite good.
Has he? Is it definitely the Count? Yeah.
Yeah. Was it misspelled?
Yeah. I think there was an O in it where there shouldn't have been.
Yeah. I don't know what that is then. I'll have to have a look. But anyway, gentlemen, it's been really good. But he's done us, Paul. He's done us. And look. Well, I'm glad they're gone. Look, yes, look. If you look and see that, look, I've got to learn. It looks like I'm floating, doesn't it? Anyway, look at my backdrop. I don't really like those two. I've got to be honest. I find them a little bit, how can I put this? A little bit chavvy. Okay. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, adios.